IGEPHA im Gespräch. Der Podcast der Austrian Self Care Association.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of IGEPHA im Gespräch, the podcast of the Austrian Self Care Association. My name is Christina Nageler and I'm the Managing Director of IGEPHA. In our current podcast season, we are exploring the use of artificial intelligence in everyday health. I discuss with my guests how AI tools can be utilized for self-care, the recent development in this area, and the future prospects. Today, we dive into the fascinating world of artificial intelligence again. Joining us in the IGEPHA podcast studio is an expert who will discuss the new application released by the WHO. Welcome, Dr. Krech. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Mrs. Nageler. Thanks for inviting me.
Before we dive deeper into an AI named Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, let me briefly introduce Dr. Krech. Dr. Rüdiger Krech has been serving as the Director of the Department of Health Promotion at the World Health Organization, WHO, in Geneva since September 2019. Dr. Krech oversees WHO's initiatives on major risk factors such as tobacco consumption and the harmful use of alcohol. He leads efforts in promoting health-enhancing settings and programs that encourage physical activity. Beyond setting norms, his team provides member states with vital health promotion tools, including health literacy, empowerment, community engagement, as well as public health legislation and fiscal measures aimed at creating societies focused on well-being. But let's now start our discussion about Sarah. Let's start with the first question. Can you please explain to us what Sarah exactly is, what the acronym stands for, and why the WHO decided to develop an AI assistant for health queries?
Yeah, thank you very much. So Sarah is an artificial intelligence supported health promoter. She will actually be in touch with you and respond to questions that you have around your own behavior, the questions that you may have around evidence in health promotion, what sort of strategies work best, and what can you do to actually promote your own life?
You launched her in April of this year, 24. Who is your target audience, and how do users learn that they can turn to Sarah for their health questions?
Our target audience is everybody. Everybody who wants to promote his or her own health. The issue that we saw was that, by and large, many people are less inclined to look at WHO guidance documents and recommendations, which actually, of course, influence a lot of policy making and clinical practice. What we wanted is to have an innovative way of translating such guidance and evidence into everyday workable advice. But it is important to note that Sarah is not a doctor. Sarah is not to be confused with medical advice that people are recommended to seek from their medical professional partner. But actually, Sarah gives advice and information about health-promoting behaviors.
How can I find Sarah?
You go on a search machine and you put in Sarah, WHO, and health promotion, and you will certainly be guided to that.
Do you plan any advertising activities to promote Sarah within the coming weeks or months?
Yeah, we will definitely promote her through social media campaigns at the World No Tobacco Day. We have promoted her during the World Health Day, which is the 7th of April. The World No Tobacco Day is 31st of May. And we're doing this through accompanying campaigns when the occasion arises. So actually what we're seeing is that there's a lot of interest that was generated when we launched her. Many positive reactions for this innovative approach. And also some colleagues said, well, that's courageous because indeed, if you're running such a campaign with an innovative technology, there is always a risk also that something does not go so well. We decided that we needed to go this way also to give Sarah a chance to learn. As you know, artificial intelligence looks at a certain data source and identifies and assesses those data sources and synthesizes the content and from that gives you some advice. Now, of course, there are certain risks when you start with this, but the more she is tried out, the more people are using her, the more she will learn, and then also target her messages and her assessments on health promoting behavior and advice on what people can do to actually promote their own health in a way that is targeted and suited for the specific population groups that she is serving.
So can you tell us how many accesses have there been since the launch? Do you have any data for us?
Yeah, I mean, this of course increases by the day. I have seen just 2 days ago was that there were already 15 million engagements.
Wow.
Just in the first couple of days. So there is a lot of interest in Sarah. Also, we need to see that her predecessor, if you will, was Florence. We launched Florence during the Corona pandemic to actually reduce the level of disinformation and misinformation that you have on the net on the COVID pandemic. To give concrete advice on during the COVID pandemic. And then we said, well, how else can we use her? And we found that most interest was in lifestyles. And so we actually started to use her for tobacco control campaigns. How can you quit smoking and what can you do to actually reduce tobacco smoking and use in different populations? That has worked tremendously well. And then we said, well, in a next generation, which is now supported by GPT 3.5 equivalent, how can you use her for a next iteration of that, a next generation, if you will? And so therefore we launched her with this new technology behind.
So you said all over the world I can go and ask Sarah, but aren't there differences in how and what to do with a minor illness, let's say? Do I do it differently in Europe than in Asia? So does she know what to do in these countries if she's asked?
Well, I mean, first of all, her data source that she looks at is trusted sources. It is data from the World Health Organization, but also from trusted institutions around the world national health promotion institutes or public health institutes, or actually like the Centers for Disease Control. So that is her data source. Now in WHO, we do have global recommendations on healthy behavior. But there's also regional adaptations for that. And in those regional adaptations, she realizes where in the world somebody is asking. And so honestly, I'm not sure if that is the first information that she would give you, but it's actually the more you actually discuss with her, asking, for instance, how do I do this in my own country, that she can actually target her responses based on that information that you actually want to know something, how this would happen in your own country. So then we are helping her also to understand that perhaps the recommendations would be country specific.
Okay. And can you tell us what's the number one question that's been asked? Besides, we talked about tobacco and COVID before, but is there anything else on the top questions?
Yeah, I don't know actually the concrete analysis. So mind you, we just launched her a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
What we're seeing though is that a lot of people are asking her a whole range of questions within public health. Many people actually want to know care instructions, and of course that is not something that she would give. And that has, of course, to do that she is not a medical doctor, right? So we also need to be clear, and that is the steepest learning that she has had in the last couple of days, that she is not going outside of the boundaries that we set, so that she is actually giving you information and advice on health promoting behaviors. Right, so that you're not confusing her with a health professional. So that has been a lot of feedback we have received, also from what we can see in the searches. So what questions people are asking. A lot of those questions had been around care. So I think in the future it will be important to also that she introduces herself better, and that is what we've adapted. Number one, with regard to what she can and cannot do, but secondly, how she's learning. Because indeed, when you're starting an innovation like this, we also need to acknowledge that she might not give the most recent information to you. That is something that the technology yet is not able to distinguish immediately. It takes a certain time lag that she understands, what has been the latest. But we're working on that technology as we speak. And the more people are trying her out, the more and better she will learn. Interestingly, she also learns like a human being would learn. So it is important to recognize the framing of a question. So in normal ChatGPT, you would just look at the information in mathematic algorithms. The way she is learning is that she can also contextualize a question and then give context-specific responses. However, as I said, not all the responses she is giving is the most recent or based on the most recent advice. And that is something that those people who talk with her have to bear in mind. We hope to actually get her to speed that she can more fast or quicker distinguish between recent and older information. Mind you, nothing of that is wrong, but it might not be the most actual response she should be giving.
So you're really sure that she doesn't give wrong advice?
Well, yeah, I mean, from all we see, you see that the point is the data source is trusted sources. Yep. Now, I cannot imagine that from a WHO source, for instance, you would get wrong advice. Mm-hmm. Because the advice that we give goes through very rigid assessment processes. So whatever you read from WHO on the websites in the internet, from a source which is attributed to WHO, I don't believe that you would get any wrong advice. You might not get the most recent one. That's true.
What languages does Sarah speak?
Yeah, she currently speaks the 6 official languages of WHO, which is English, French, Chinese, Arab, Spanish, and Russian. So that these are the languages she currently speaks. We hope, of course, that we can expand her language skills. That very much depends on whether or not we can attract new partners to help us do so that we have an automatic translation source included. But this is music of the future. We say we don't know how we can actually get to this, but we're very, very open to partner with new businesses to help her grow.
Has there been any public criticism on Sarah that she might answer wrong, or that she might give advice which you said she shouldn't because she's not a medical doctor?
Yeah. So as I said, by and large, the reaction has been extremely positive. I would say 95% of this was extremely positive, congratulating us on the way we go forward. Now, there has been a couple of articles which go back to one source where there has been some criticism. And the criticism is that, for instance, she would give outdated advice, and they quoted, of course, some examples with this, and we do acknowledge that this has been the case, and we're sorry for that. But as I said, this is part of the learning curve for the future, and some have also criticized that when she then gives additional advice and says, "Oh, perhaps you want to read this or that article or recommendation," and she gives a link to another WHO or other website, that some of these links had been broken. Well, that is, if you would have searched this on the internet, the link to the source would also have been broken. So this is something to my own colleagues within WHO or the other public health institutions to better look at, putting all the links now at ease, so that when people then want to click on it, actually then also can open those documents.
Okay. How will Sarah continue to evolve, and what are the future plans of WHO to give this new technology a new sense of enhancing health literacy within the public?
Yeah, you see, this field of artificial intelligence and this whole IT transformation is going at an extremely rapid pace, which we endorse, which we appreciate. Now, this means that, as I was saying about her predecessor, which we launched just 3 years ago, when I compare what this predecessor was able to do and what Sarah now, just 3.5 years later, is able to do, it's a huge difference and a positive one. So we completely endorse the opportunities that we have with artificial intelligence, while we, of course, in the general area of artificial intelligence, we also see a lot of risks for people that need our attention. Now, on the positive side, how will she evolve? Well, we're very open for discussions with new partners, also to use the latest technology. Now, in 2024, we see innovations also with regard to, the imagery, how she appears, the way, because if you look at her, she still looks a little bit like a comic figure. But we see that now in 2023, some companies have actually changed that and are working on the images that these artificial intelligence figures might have in the future. We might actually work with those companies, those AI companies that are actually looking at, working on the latest data sources first. This will be the next generation. Like if I, look at GPT 4.0, which will definitely come to the market very soon, that already is doable. So looking at those innovations at any one time, so to make her a sort of steadily learning and evolving figure to use for health promotion advice, that is what is in our minds, at least at WHO.
Sounds great. One final question. What advice would you give our podcast audience to make the most of artificial intelligence for their own personal health?
If I look at the self-care movement overall, which is so important, and where we need to empower people to take control over their own health and lives. That is what is health promotion. This is the definition of health promotion. I can just encourage people to use artificial intelligence to very quickly assess the content of so many documents that you would have to read just a couple of years back. So to use this as an information source, but to make the own judgment on how do I take this information that I retrieve from artificial intelligence, but how do I translate that into my own behavior? What do I believe I need for my own care? That is so important, that we're not just now, blindly follow what artificial intelligence comes up with, but that we're using our own assessments, our own thoughts in what makes my own life better. What do I want to change? What do I need in order to change my patterns of behavior to become more healthy? And that is something that artificial intelligence will never be able to do. And so my advice to all the many friends and colleagues who are working on self-care, the many patients we serve, and the people, don't just look at your disease, but look at your lives. Look at the way you want to live with the disease that you also have. So that is a little bit what I would take from that. Let's not get overheated with artificial intelligence, but let us use it for the best of our lives.
Thanks, Dr. Krech, for this great interview, and thanks to WHO for introducing Sarah, and thanks for using this new technology to better enhance the people to do a better self-care. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Mrs. Nageler. It was so nice to be with you.
Artificial intelligence is clearly a factor in self-care that can offer many benefits, but also needs critical examination. At IGEPHA, we deal with various aspects of self-care and engage with internationally recognized experts to keep you, our dear podcast audience, informed about the rapid scientific and technological advancements. IGEPHA is the Austrian Association for the Self-Care Industry. If you want to learn more about our work, simply send me an email at office@igepha.at. Thank you for your interest and see you next time on IGEPHA im Gespräch.